Welcome back, folks. Yeah, it's been a bit chilly today, so we've had the fire going. So today we're going to look at putting the forks back on the YBR125. I've received the new bottom yoke. Obviously I had to stop the last video because of I found the bottom yoke was bent. Yeah, okay, so what do we got? So, got the yoke. Just give it a little blow over of paint just to make it look a little bit better. Bearing on there. Get my grease pot. I use a little lollipop stick to apply the grease. Saves you getting your fingers all mucky. A small amount of grease on there. I've already put a bit of grease under the bearing as well. So I'll put a small amount of grease on there. I've already greased top and bottom on the of the top bearing. I'll move it over that way a little bit. So simple. Make sure you don't push the top bearing out the way. Got there. Rise it up there. Wiggle it back and forwards. Take the first castle nut. Screw that on by hand. Doesn't need to go up too tight, because if you do it up too tight, it will crush the bearings. It will pull together and it will crush the bearings and be too stiff. Obviously, you've got to have enough to stop any play in the bearings, but just give it a light. Excuse me. Light bit of pressure on there, and that will be fine. Out of the back pocket. Then we have the little rubber washer. That goes on next. Then the other castellated nut. Tweak that down until we feel a bit of pressure there. Remember, we have this washer with the locking tabs, or the locating tabs on. So we'll just line them up. We'll give it a little bit of pressure on that one. So we line them up. Push that down there. Check it still moves freely. Top yoke. Given this a blow over already. I bought a pattern ignition off of eBay, nice and cheap. Only thing was they had the right colours of wires, but they had the wrong connector blocks. It's a Chinese ignition switch, so I've actually swapped it over and I've put bullet connectors on there instead. So if you buy if you do happen to buy one of these Chinese cheap ignition systems, lock sets, because I've got the petrol cap, and there's another lock in there, which I think is the one in the side panel. Yeah, then find that the connectors are probably wrong. So then we got the large at the top. That one, these fine threads are sometimes awkward to set off. Same thing. Right, we only do that down so it just holds the yoke in place, because we're going to have to slide the forks up and get everything in line. So, yep, that is correct. Looks nice. 14mm spanner on there. Right, push the forks up. So I like to do it so the top of the fork leg comes up, so you've just got the with the rubber sticking out the top of the fork leg. You see that? That's the position for this. Right, here's the other fork leg. So picked these up second hand, cheap enough. Oh, look at that, slides in there nicely. Get the height right. Tweak that up. Now I'm looking for the 10mm. So you must have used, so that looks like 10mm. Tighten up the top yoke. Check how they look. Yeah, they look pretty good. Level across that way. And then do up the large nut. Same thing, don't need to over tighten, just put a light bit of pressure on there. There you go. Same thing, check the action, feels solid. Right, now, look at that. Right. Drop one of these fork legs out. I can't get all the wiring and the headlight shell up and through. Okay, now we're going to be looking at lining up the top fittings. Push those cables behind. So I'm going to put a dab of grease on those bolts. One, so they go in a little bit easier, and two, that if we ever got to take this apart again, it will make it a lot easier. Pull those throttle cables up through. We've just got locked in a little bit behind there. I will I took the bolts out of there, didn't I? So that won't. Okay, and we've got the holder for the wiring. Which way round did that go? That way. So that's the little wire fixing. Wires. 8mm headed bolts there, 6mm thread, 8mm heads. Tweak those up. Now, I'll get the fork leg again. Push that up. Same thing. 10mm. Spanner. Fork leg up to position. Right height. And 14. In the front there. Tighten them up. Okay, let's just put the handlebars on. As you remember, we'll put, okay, right, what we've got to do, these, again, pattern handlebars, they don't come pre-drilled. For the pins, the location pins on the switchgear, so we have to strip them, take that out, have to mark and drill them. Let's get a couple of bolts. Oh, one of the bolts on the floor. So we'll slide the main part of the throttle on, put the bars into place. These clamps, lucky I'm going to respray the tank. These clamps are slightly, see if you can see that, there's different heights. I always put them with the long side there at the front and the gap at the back. That way you can around. That way you can keep an eye on it, make sure everything's spaced right, and also you've got less likelihood, in my head anyway, less likelihood of water getting in there. So we'll put that one in there. Maybe have to reposition these in a minute. What I have a tendency to do, what I find, is you tighten up the front one, then come around and do the rear one. Let's get that over so it's positioned better. Hand tighten the front ones. What I tend to find is by tightening down the rear one, it pulls the whole thing down, so looking at it, it gets flat on the nuts, on the bottom of the bolts, the washer section of the bolts. Not too bad. already actually pre-drilled this side, so I can put the clutch lever to go on first. Remember what I said? Always leave the screws in place, so then you know exactly where they are and you have to refit the switchgear. Sub-assemblies, always do a sub-assembly. So this side, like I say, I've already pre-drilled. Put it the right size. Locating down is there. Yeah. Then you drop the screw on the floor. So you're going to do the other side first. Tighten those up. And I've put the twist, the other grip on the bench there somewhere, maybe? Somewhere. Sure, I'll find that later on. Ah, there it is. It's on this side of the bench. That goes on there. Levers, right. Okay. So we'll run the cables down through the bracket there. And then they can go into the back of the headlight. Cables. This one's got a fix in there. Okay. So, what we're going to do about this locating dowel. Like I say, these have got a little location pin on the top bracket. Best way I've found is if you got the old bent handlebar, it has a hole already in it, so we can take a measurement that is longer than the ruler that I have there. So I will grab another tape measure. So take a measurement. I would take a measurement to the centre of the hole. 1/7 166. Slight flaw in the plan there. Should have pre-drilled them. Okay, so I'm actually going to do it the other way. By marking it. This is the sort of centre punch that is supposed to self-punch, but actually didn't work very well. So centre punch a hole. Check what size. Looks like it's going to be a 5mm. Yeah, 5mm drill bit. Check that off. That fits in there nicely. Yep. That'll work for treat. There we go. A little bit more awkward here to get the screws in place because of the throttle cables. Okay, that's going nicely. Clocks, and we need a 4mm Allen key. Again, don't over tighten, just tight enough to hold everything in place. Put the brake on. We'll have to take this lever off and straighten it before the bike goes back on the road. We've got to get an MOT for the bike, so bent lever like that, even though the brake can still operate, is not very good. So we'll be doing that as well. I'll do that in the future. Might just do a short video showing that. Okay. So thread the wiring from the clocks through there, or clocks and instruments, back through the shell, and the shell was already hanging off, and I don't have the bolts here, so I will grab, not from there, over here. My box of 8mm bolts, and we'll just put a couple of bolts in loosely for the minute. Me being me, wanting to find the right size. Sleeve on it, quite handy. Hold that in place for a minute. Now, as I said before, it's just a case of finding the same matching colour, same style of connector block, same bits and pieces all the way through. So just put that one, little bits that keep all the wiring where they're meant to be. We have a 6-pin block connector. Have a look here. This bit, 6-pin block connector, 6-pin block connector. Simple as that, folks. So push that together. I saw a yellow wire at the back there. We have a yellow wire here. That one's going to go together. dark green, come out of that double connector. There's two lots of dark greens there. That's the brown, dark brown, which is there. Blue with the yellow chaser, blue with the yellow chaser. So that's all the instruments done. They're all connected up. And this is the ignition, which, like I said, I had to rewire. Sorry, I damaged my thumb the other day and I don't get great grip. So sometimes it's a bit awkward pushing bits together. There you go. Black and white, and actually the black from the ignition . Let's get that a little bit in there. Right, there we go. That, in theory, should connect the battery. As we dump, there we go. That's the engine management on. Oh, never check. The lights are on. Have no indicator. Okay, right, we might find I've had problems with pattern ignitions. So what I'm going to have to do is rewire. I'll come back to that. We will rewire the ignition. Put the old ignition back on, sorry, because I know that one works. And see whether we'll get the bike running again, because obviously we had it running before we started stripping this down. So we'll get back to that in a clutch, line up the slots in the adjuster screw. And then you can adjust it. Just how you pull this out, the adjuster out, so you have 3mm plate. It's a bit stiff, so I'm going to get the pliers. You always adjust the clutch lever, so you have a little bit of play there, and then you feel it starting to bite. So leave about 3mm of play between the lever and the bracket there. all that's right. We'll see. I might have to fine tune that when we get the bike running, when the back rolling again. Now, pattern mudguard. Let's see if that fits. We have a brand new shiny mudguard. Just a little bit of tweaking to align it up. That felt like went in nicely. We'll get a little dab of grease. Another little thing that I like to do. So you only need a small amount of grease. So you can put twice the amount that you need, and then scrape it off and actually roll the threads across each other. And it pushes the grease down into the threads, and two, you get it all the way around. So just roll them around there a little bit. Get a bit of grease all the way around. It'll just make them go in a bit easier. Line up one. Just put the bolts in a couple of threads at a time. Because if you need to move anything around, don't put one in and tighten it up. You probably have to move everything around. Just put them all in. This one's feel it, there it goes. Do all those up finger tight. Realised on this side we've got the bracket hanging off just above the caliper, so we'll just pull those two screws out of that side, put the bracket in place, tie them up again. Just noticed I've not done up the bolts. They're just sitting in place for the bottom of the headlight bracket. So I'll grab a socket to do that. Okay, speedo cable. The speedo cable, the inner cable had slid out of it and actually got a bit dirty on the bench there. So I'll do that. I'm actually going to use chain loop. Pull that cable up so I've got enough slack on there. In fact, I'll pull out a little bit more. Feed the inner cable in as we spray a little bit of lube in at a time. Handlebars. So that's all ready to go on. Small mark on that. Second hand forks. Clear the space a little bit. Wheel goes in easily. Make sure you've got your wheel spacer on one side. The spindle itself slightly drier than I'd like, so I'm just going to wipe a little bit of grease on there. I only need the tiniest amount. What I'd like to do as well before assemble it, especially if I've greased it up, slide the shaft in and out a couple of times, just to make sure everything goes in there. Nice. Now, when we're putting the wheel in, we've got to make sure this location here on the top of the speedo drive goes on the pin here on the bottom of the fork leg. So when I put the wheel in, make sure that all lines up. Get it all straight. A little bit fiddly. Put this side in. Make sure that one's lined up, like I say. The nut and the washer on. Nice. On there. 17mm on that side, and 1mm on that side. Yeah, just checking that that's all fine. Right, see what you can see from this side. Down here. Brake caliper. Question was, did we pull the master cylinder? It will fit over there. 12. And we're going to actually check that that brake's not binding. We let that off. Yeah, that's good. Let that one off. So now, gonna have to investigate why the bike isn't running. I'll wire up the original ignition again and try that. See if it's actually the ignition switch or whether there's another fault. I'm going to finish this video now. If you enjoyed this, give us a thumbs up. If you want to subscribe. Like I say, I'm going to be doing plenty more videos on many bike orientated things. So yeah, until next time, stay safe folks, and we'll catch you again on the next episode. Alright, cheers, bye.